Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into the mind of the guy who literally wrote the playbook on how nations get rich. If you've ever looked around at the global economy and thought, how on earth do all these moving parts actually work together? Well, you are in the exact right place.
So, why are some nations incredibly wealthy while others stay stuck in poverty? I mean, why does a single worker in one country generate so much more wealth than a worker somewhere else? For centuries, right, kings and philosophers just obsessed over this puzzle. They kept trying to top-down engineer their economies. But it wasn't until the 18th century that a Scottish thinker came along and dropped a totally revolutionary answer.
Okay, let's get into it. The crazy thing about Adam Smith, he wasn't a businessman. He wasn't some hotshot Wall Street trader or a factory tycoon. He spent most of his life as a quiet, kind of forgetful academic and philosopher. Yet despite never running a single company, his ideas became the absolute bedrock of modern economics. To understand how he pulled off this massive paradigm shift, we've got to look at what he was actually up against. Section 1. The Mystery of Wealth. To really appreciate Smith's sheer genius, we need a quick look at how the world worked before he showed up. Back in the 18th century, the name of the game was mercantilism. Basically, governments thought national wealth meant hoarding as much gold and silver in a giant vault as humanly possible. It's like they thought the economic pie was totally fixed. To get a bigger slice, you had to block imports and micromanage trade. But Smith, he completely flipped the script. He argued that a country's true wealth isn't just a pile of shiny metal. Real wealth comes from human labor, skills, production, and innovation. Honestly, it was a total game changer. Which brings us to our next section, the moral philosopher, and this is a part of his life that gets hugely overlooked. Most folks today assume Smith was just this ruthless champion of greed and profit at all costs. But that is a massive misunderstanding of who he actually was. His very first major book, published in 1759, wasn't even about money. It was called The Theory of Moral Sentiments. In it, he argued that humans possess this profound thing called sympathy. We naturally share the feelings of others. We feel bad when we see suffering. We admire kindness. He definitively argued that humans are absolutely not purely selfish creatures. We care deeply about how others perceive us, and that shared morality is the glue holding society together. All right, let's move on to his most famous work, The Wealth of Nations. Published in 1776, this masterpiece really changed the world. Here, he took his deep understanding of human behavior and applied it to the big picture economy. And nothing illustrates this better than his famous pin factory example, explaining the division of labor. Imagine one guy trying to make a metal pin, totally from scratch. He has to draw the wire, cut it, shape it, make the head, attach it. It's a nightmare. He'd be lucky to make a handful of pins all day. But if you break that process down into distinct, specialized steps, where one person only cuts, someone else only shapes, boom, the magic happens. The takeaway here is absolutely crucial. That simple specialization turns a painfully slow grind into an explosively efficient machine. That same small group of workers, they can suddenly produce tens of thousands of pins a day. Specialization dramatically boosts speed, hones individual skills, maximizes efficiency, and completely skyrockets production. This one simple observation basically became the blueprint for modern industrial manufacturing. Next up, the invisible hand. Because if everyone is just doing one highly specialized job, how on earth does society get everything else it needs? Who's organizing all of this?
Enter his most famous concept, the invisible hand. Smith noticed that people often create massive benefits for society just by pursuing their own self-interest. Think about it. A farmer grows wheat strictly because he wants to make a living, right? A baker sells bread to make a profit. Neither of them wakes up thinking, I'm going to feed the entire city today. Yet, through free exchange and market forces, the city gets fed. It's this beautiful, uncoordinated, invisible coordination.
And look at the results. This dynamic accidentally produces exactly what a thriving society needs: food, widespread employment, incredible products, and vital services. No king or central planner had to dictate any of it. Self-interest, when you pair it with healthy competition and that basic moral behavior we talked about earlier, naturally builds a prosperous society. Now for Section 4, the myth of zero government. This is where we really need to do some myth-busting about Adam Smith. Because he loved free markets, people today sometimes claim he wanted a world with absolutely zero government. Honestly, totally false. He explicitly argued that a successful economy needs strong, reliable institutions. He actually outlined 3 vital roles for government. Number 1, defense, protecting the nation. Number 2, justice, maintaining the rule of law and protecting property so people can trade securely. And number 3, public works. He knew the government had to build the stuff that private businesses wouldn't find profitable enough to do on their own, like roads, bridges, and, very notably, public education systems.
And here's a surprising fact for you. Smith was a massive advocate for the everyday worker. He firmly believed workers are the ones actually creating the value. He constantly warned about the dangers of employers getting too much power and pushing wages down. He was a huge champion for making sure the working class had access to education, skills, and fair opportunities. He wasn't just batting for the factory owners, he wanted the whole system to be fair.
Which brings us to our final section, Adam Smith's modern legacy. The guy lived in the 1700s, so how do his ideas hold up against modern scrutiny today?
Well, a lot of it is still the absolute foundation of our globalized world. Take the concept of absolute advantage in trade. He argued that just like workers in that pin factory, entire countries should specialize. If country A is naturally super efficient at growing cotton and country B is great at building machines, they shouldn't try to do everything themselves. They should specialize and trade freely with each other. It's a win-win. To Smith, trade wasn't a zero-sum game. It's how everyone flourishes.
But of course, no thinker is totally bulletproof. When we look at entirely unchecked free markets today, economists point out a few major, completely valid concerns. First, unregulated markets can drastically increase wealth inequality. Second, businesses can become so powerful they form monopolies, which actually crushes the competition Smith loved so much. Third, modern psychology proves we aren't always rational. We definitely don't always make logical economic choices. And fourth, unchecked growth can cause severe environmental damage, something Smith literally couldn't have foreseen back in the 18th century.
But ultimately, if you really read his work, Smith was never saying profit at any cost. His true legacy, the thing that bridges his moral philosophy with his economic genius, is the profound belief that human effort, productivity, and free markets absolutely must exist right alongside social responsibility and justice. The whole system really only works if the players act with some degree of morality.
Adam Smith fundamentally gave us the lens through which we view our modern world. But the debate is definitely far from over, so I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder after this explainer. Based on everything we've unpacked today about human nature, the invisible hand, and the complexities of our modern society, what do you think? Do free markets alone create true prosperity, or do governments fundamentally need a bigger role to ensure that prosperity is shared? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.